Welcome to the Giants Nation show. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, alone, on my own, doing this. You see it in the title. I've left JonBoy Media and Talkin Giants, or they're not that I've left Talkin Giants, they're keeping Talkin Giants. And Justin Penik is staying. I'm gonna tell you what happened in this episode. And first of all, I really want to thank anyone who's ever supported. Uh, and for all the support you guys have shown me for 6 years. I hope to keep it, whether, it came from the 2019 Daniel Jones, breakdowns, deep ball, third down, the O-line reports that started in 2020, the recap shows, which really started to get bigger, playoff live streams or whatever. Like, you guys have made it possible for me to stand up for myself in this career. And I'm truly appreciative. But I really struggled for the last week since this decision has been made with what to do with this first episode. Do I take, the complete high road and just say everything was great, but I just wanted to start something new, or tell the truth? And I just feel like I have to be honest. Obviously, I don't need to share every little detail about everything, but I feel like I need the audience owed that, especially the fact that myself and Justin aren't doing the show together anymore. It'd be one thing if me and him both left and just wanted to start our own thing, but that's not what happened. I wanted to start with the main reason that this is happening, right? That I'm doing Giants Nation show and no longer with Jomboy Media or Talking Giants. I was given 2 contract offers by Jomboy Media. One to move to New York and one to stay in Florida, where I live, obviously. Similar to, the dynamic at the end of 2021, where they gave me 2 offers, but very different. Jake, who was like the number 2 at the company, was, like sidekick to Jomboy when they started the company, reached out to me. He's on, I don't know exactly what his title is, but he's the person that I deal with. He reached out to me a couple weeks ago asking if I was interested in moving to New York, because I wasn't, I didn't take the offer to move to New York in 2021. And I told him it depends on the numbers, right? I'm not going to just say no. Like, first of all, I don't want to move to New York. I just got married. My family is here. I grew up here. My church is here. My whole support system is here. And, I like to be a support system for other people, but I wanted to at least hear them out. And the fact that there are advantages of being up there for this job, although they were not really wanting me up there for those advantages. Let me get a drink of water. The offer to move to New York was $3,000 more per year. And I won't get into what my salary was, but asking me to move myself and my wife and leave our entire lives behind was shocking for that amount of money. I mean, forget the fact that the difference in state taxes is more than 3,000. Like, I'm actually making less money just state taxes. But you want me to move my wife less than a month after being married to New York for less net pay, before we talk about cost of living or anything, away from my family, my support system, add 2 hours minimum of commute to my day on a job that you don't clock in and out of. It was laughable to me, but I also wasn't mad because I didn't want to move to New York, and that made that decision extremely easy for me. So I asked, is there an offer to stay in Florida? There was. The offer to stay in Florida was to become a contractor, so losing all my, benefits of being a full-time employee, and to cut my salary in half. To cut my salary in half. Half. Again, that's lose the benefits and it is cut in half. Imagine an apple, you cut it, and I was shocked, but not actually that shocked. Their selling point to me being, though, well, you can seek outside ventures to make money, and you don't do any more football today NFL coverage, just talking Giants. But at that point, I knew I was leaving as soon as I got that offer. But I had a feeling that this was all going to end, eventually, right? Maybe about a year ago, and definitely had a feeling a little less than a month ago, because Justin was offered and signed a contract to stay with them before they even approached me about one. And I was kind of tipped off that they were going to offer me a New York full-time contract or as a remote contractor. And I let Justin know, like, I'm not going to take less money. But I called Jake and, and told, told him I was quitting, right? But I wanted to keep the baby that I created, which was Talkin Giants, which I did create it before I was even with them, and I feel like I built it and raised it. I called Justin and let him know the news that he already knew was coming. I didn't hear anything from the company for more than 4 days, but in that time, I did a Jameis Winston podcast, a Jameis Winston film breakdown, where I was up until 2 in the morning on a Friday night before having to get up at 7 a.m. to do like a little mini vacation weekend getaway. But on that call, when I told them on that Wednesday, Jake had told me that he didn't want to get into a pissing match about keeping the Talking Giants property and said some nice things to me. And so I was still an employee until the end of March, and I wanted to do the right thing. And I thought we were, that possibly was going to happen. So, I mean, at this point, I'm annoyed and I feel a bit disrespected by JonBoy Media, but wanting to go our own separate ways and no hard feelings. With Justin, I was respecting his decision to choose a couple of years of job security over keeping this together. Like, I had asked Justin before he signed his contract if he could wait until I have some type of offer, because I told him loud and clear that I was not going to take less money from the company and I wasn't moving to New York for nothing. And Justin and I had conversations for some time about what leaving would look like, and that's what I wanted to do at this point, right? We had talked about it, and I finally was at a point where I wanted to do that. I wanted to either stay at my salary and keep things the way they were, or leave with Justin and split essentially everything 50-50 between me and him. And I was willing to make less money to keep this together and do it on our own because I loved it, right? Like I loved Talking Giants, and I valued keeping it together with me and Justin more than short-term financial benefits. Justin told me that he's signing because that was the security he was looking for. I told him that I don't think it's great for him to do that long term, but if he wants to look out for himself without me, that I hope it works out with JonBoy Media, but I'm not taking less money from them, right? I was hoping, like, if they want to keep me at the same salary, fine, but I'm not taking less money. And then Monday last week, they tell me they're keeping Talking Giants and that they want to reconsider they want me to reconsider the contractor agreement of making half my salary and losing my benefits. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. We'll explain a little more on what their thinking was on that and why it was just wrong. And I want to talk about the future, but this is the toughest part. And I'm actually re-recording this because I'm mad at Justin, and I can't just sit on here and say that I'm not. This is, again, the part where I struggled with the most with what I wanted to share. In fact, again, I'm re-recording this part. One, because you guys have come to know and love the show that was me and Justin. And I'm sure some people are glad that they can listen to me or him without the other. But most people enjoyed the dynamic of myself and Justin. And I wish I could sit here and say we're going to do reunion shows and go support him and no hard feelings. But they there just is hard feelings. But I still care about Justin. There is no one else that I wanted to do Giants content with. But I hate the way that I feel about him right now. I do. But I do feel anger. And I thought it was truly us against the world. No Diddy, but that's what I thought. And I still care about Justin and his family and his issues, but I have a lot of bad feelings against him right now. And I really don't want to say anything more when it comes to that. But I want to talk about the future, because that's what really matters. You guys aren't here for drama. You guys are here for Giants content. So again, I want to talk more about things. I'll explain some more things of how things went down, but what's next is what's really important, instead of what already happened, because that's what matters at the end of the day. You guys will support me for Giants content, not blind loyalty. You're not my fan. We're like a fan, but we're not actually family. Things will be different. Obviously, I hate when shows, like, in people, they change or they leave a place and they say nothing is gonna change, and obviously it does. It's impossible to not. It's just how much is gonna change. Are you gonna change your identity? You gonna change price? Like, what are you gonna? There's gonna be things that change. Big one is Justin not being the co-host, but there still would have been some changes if Justin had left as well. And one thing that's gonna change is the thing that I'm relying on. I'm not relying on a salary anymore. Patreon. The Patreon is going to be what I hope keeps this alive. It is what gave me the confidence to do this. They wanted to take it from us in October, and we told them no. Patreon.com/Giants Nation. And I did the biggest change is I had to get rid of the $2 tier and make it $6 per month. it just doesn't make any sense financially to have a $2 tier when the Patreon is making up the majority of my income, at least early on in this venture. It was great as a little bit of extra cash but now I'm relying on it. And I'm also really asking if you guys to consider the $10 tier. 100 people in the $10 tier is equal to 167 in the $6 tier. And again, I'm not going to have this plea to the listeners basically ever again. But I have to do it on this episode because this is what I will be relying on, especially early on. I don't have ads lined up. YouTube AdSense isn't enough, especially as I have to build from zero essentially without the channels and the social media platforms that I created. It's going to be this loyal base who really believes in me and believes in the content that is going to help it. And I ask that you do that if you're not a Patreon member already. Now people who are already are Patreons, and we never really offered a ton on the Patreon. That's why, we never felt like, oh, we should be raising the price on this. But I gave the people who are on Patreon a 1-day warning that I was going to change, which is not a lot of time, but asking if you stay, but if cancel, reconsider, whatever, or even upgrade to the $10 tier. Like I would ask that if you're already a Patreon. But because there wasn't a lack of warning and not everyone sees every post that goes out and doesn't have notifications, if you are in the Patreon and you got charged this, changed to the $6 tier and charged, and don't want to, message me and I'll reimburse you. And I'm very sorry about that. No, and listen, there's no hard feelings if you hey, I have to cancel my subscription. It's not what you signed up for. So how could I ever have any bad will against that? Trust me, it's annoying how everything is a subscription. I'm pissed off at the TV every time. Which subscription do we have to watch, use to watch whatever. And I hope to get to a place, selling ads where I can drop the price back to $2 a month, and that would be really good, really cool. But here's what will be change about the Patreon. The biggest change, I think, is that film reviews, the in-season film reviews, breaking down the games, all 17, they will be on Patreon only. The reasons for this is, one, you have to have something that you put exclusively behind it. And I thought the film review was a perfect one for a couple reasons. One, it gets demonetized on YouTube. The NFL has gotten very strict about film. Mostly it's the side angle. So the O-line report, O-line, D-line ones don't get flagged as much. But you put a big throw on them and they get demonetized. And they definitely get demonetized when it's a good game for your team, because I don't know what happens, but they just flag those things. So and when the Giants aren't good, which my business is really hoping they are good this year, the views are terrible on it. But it's valuable. It's not something I would ever not do, because one, it's where I create all my takes, right? From the film, you're watching the film, putting together the film review. That's where I create my takes on the coaching staff and their play calling and their philosophies and the backup defensive tackle and all that. I have to do the film review to make all the show work. So the film review will be on Patreon only. We will still do the show live on Patreon. Yeah, right, so you get early access to the show. And I will send new stickers, obviously, to the new Patreon members. We'll do 2. Now that we're changing the tier, you get 2 free stickers. I know, what a freaking deal. But any existing Patreon members, resend me your address in the messages, and I will send you the new stickers when they get in. And here's something about Patreon. Sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't respond for 3 days. I don't open any message until I'm ready to, write an envelope and fill it and send it, because I don't want to make sure I lose anybody. So if you think oh, I went 2 days without, getting a response, that's why. It's because I'm waiting for supplies or whatever. But we'll send new stickers. And then the t-shirt contest, we'll still do one for the cheaper tier, the $6. We'll do one, and we're going to do 2 extra ones for the $10 tier. So instead of before, it was 2 for the regular tier and then a bonus one for the $10 tier. It's reversing. And then obviously the $10 tier is more stickers. And it's just the $10 tier is more valuable. Not putting a ton more behind that, but just would really appreciate if you considered that, especially early on. And maybe we can add some new perks and brainstorm some, that on the private Twitter. There's a private Twitter account where it's not that cool, but sometimes put some stuff on there. And then non-Patreon changes. First of all, Bobby's Breakdowns is now the Giants Nation show. That's the channel that you're watching right now. And you're going to say, oh, that's why. That's why Bobby was promoting this new channel. Well, it was for the last week, But that was actually never the plan with Bobby's breakdowns. The reason why I actually started that channel was the draft breakdowns used to do really well, and then last year they really got bogged down with all the content that was on the Jomboy Media football YouTube, and I just didn't want to put all the work in for them and them not to do well. But I thought it'd be good to have like a separate thing that could grow outside of Talking Giants, and did that. And I was actually going to keep Giants Nation show and Bobby's breakdown separately, but my wife convinced me when I was like, "Damn, I'm making this Cam Ward breakdown, and that should be a good way to grow it early on." But it's on Bobby's breakdowns, and it's like just change it. And you know what? That's right. Um, the other changes: O-line reports will not be a weekly series. That was something I decided before I left. I decided at the end of last season. It's just they get very repetitive over a 17-week season, and I just don't enjoy doing them when they get repetitive. That doesn't mean there will be O-line reports. It's just not going to be every week, and it's not like, all right, well, now we're doing less content. It's actually to free up me to do other content, right? Like, hey, I'm going to want to do a video. Like, say the Giants draft Mason Graham or Derek Harmon. You know what? Let me go through his last 4 games of film and put together like what he's been like, stuff like that. Or like, a video, where I'm, the Joe Shane video, right? About what, like the one that got me in trouble about why I think he should be fired. Obviously, that's not going to be a repeating video, but like stuff like that where there's something on my mind. Maybe I don't like a coordinator, or I really do like a coordinator. And that's what it's going to be. But it just gives me more freedom to do other videos, do live streams in the gaps and stuff. No co-host, at least early on. I would like to add a co-host. Please do not take this as a message Bobby this week. That's probably the worst way to do it. It's not going to be about, you're not going to become the co-host by asking, right? I'm going to kind of have to notice you. But I don't know if I ever will. But here's what I'm not going to do: is there will be no co-host for the first 3 months. Now there kind of will be with the football grump, because I've contracted him to be on for draft month, right? All the draft previews, the draft recaps, the draft live streams, the UDFA pods, they will be with Grump. So he's going to be a part of that. But he's not the co-host. But I need to get through 3 months of putting together a business before I add anybody with significant commitment. But again, ideally, I would like to have a co-host. So Grump will be a frequent guest. Danny King is going to be involved in some way. He'll be on the draft live streams. I'm sure he'll still run the Giants Nation pod Twitter account during the games. I won't be doing any more broad NFL coverage, so the rest should basically stay the same, though. Like I basically created a year-round schedule for the show, and I intend to keep that all the same. The only thing that I didn't create was the idea of PPPs, player profiles, and that is the lowest viewed content of the year, but I still love those. Like JonBoy Media is keeping the podcast feed, the YouTube, but you're crazy if you think I'm not going to keep the guest rotation that we had, the interview series and recaps of training camp, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday of recap mailbag preview in the season, the Tony Award, draft streams, film breakdowns of draft picks and free agent additions, the pending free agent pod, the UDFA review pod, the end of season awards show, the way too early free agency and draft previews, the over under pod, the 4th of July mailbag. Those are mine, right? You can keep the name Talking Giants in the YouTube accounts. Those are my ideas, and those will stay as part of the Giants Nation show. And again, the goal for me right now is this as a business is getting through the next 3 months and then reevaluating to see what is possible. There's kind of a pitch to whoever may be listening. I would like to sell ads eventually, right? Right now, my pitch would be to sell a draft and training camp package separately, but it would be nice if it was the same, sponsor. And if you do, I mean, one, you get to say you're the first sponsor of the Giants Nation show, and I think people will really cling to that. I think it'll be a big part. You'll be hopefully a long-term sponsor, but people will respond to that well. I think there's a lot of value in that, and I've already put together what those packages would look like, and at discounted rates that have the ability to go above and beyond what is promised in those. The other things that I would need from people that may be listening is people with an audience. I feel like we've done a good job of promoting people. There's times where we left people at like the the 3-hour content creator episode. There were so many people that it's like we look back, it's like, damn, forgot that person, right? But if you have a platform, I got to build this thing back up from essentially zero. Um, and I would appreciate that, right? If he had me on, right? I'm not going to go to you specifically and ask, but I would appreciate that as I try and build this thing back up. It's draft month, so I'm going to be busy, so I'm not saying it's all going to happen in 2 weeks, but I would appreciate that. I'd like to set up an online store and everything that goes with that. I got to kind of figure out some of that stuff. I'd like to have some basic merchandise, um, but we'll see how that all goes. So this is all brand new to me, and I'm excited about it. But the thing that makes me feel the most comfortable is that I've spent 6 years trying to do right by Giants Nation. That's right. And being genuine in everything I do instead of, selling out to try and get every click possible for the company or, whatever. Like I hope that you guys have seen that. And listen, I just mentioned a lot of the structure is going to stay the same. I don't have a co-host quite yet. Grump essentially is the co-host for draft month, but again, I've told anyone who I've talked about that possibly could be something is that I am not making any decision or even inkling, especially the first month, but the first 3 months, and then July, I want to see what we have here. But we have fun things coming forward. A Cam Ward breakdown. I don't know if I'm going to put that out maybe tonight or tomorrow. Working on a mock draft, a Travis Hunter breakdown, Mason Graham, and more. Like I'm excited about it, and I believe in this vision, and I hope you guys do too. So it's no longer Talking Giants versus the world, but it will be Giants Nation show for life. I mean, I think this is a for life thing. I mean, maybe someone comes and gives me this crazy offer, and it's like, whoops, sorry, cancel your Patreons. But I don't think that's gonna happen because I like having the control of my life. So, but the Patreon is the key. I need to your guys' support. I believe in this and I trust in it. I need to get through the next 3 months, but this is the key, and it's patreon.com/Giants Nation. There's two tiers. Um, the $6 a month, but I would really encourage if you're able, right? Do the $10 a month. And if you're not able to do the $6 a month, just subscribe and share with your friends that, Bobby's going out on his own with a new show called Giants Nation Show. Which, hey, I'm reintroducing that. That used to be the name of the show that I once created. But got to get through the next 3 months. Patreon.com/Giants Nation. Truly, truly appreciate that because it's it's a little scary, right? It is a little bit scary to go out and do this and not know how much money is going to come in the next month. So thank you guys again in advance for everything you guys done. But I do want to share more, but I want to talk about the bare basics of what happened and what the future looks like. But I kind of want to talk about what really happened with Jomboy. You know, I started the Giants Nation podcast with Danny King in 2019 in January. And then we joined on with Jomboy Media where, they were first getting rolling with their Yankee stuff. And we turned it into Talking Giants. We did it for free for the first year, obviously. And then went full time on a smaller salary in September of 2020. And a salary that I'm still extremely grateful for. And I always will be. In that year, 2020, we added Justin Penik with Danny King, going away from school. We kept him on as a blogger and stuff. Hell, we even had another guy, Anthony Tomeno, who, never forget him. He worked with us. He did draft stuff with me, and he ended up passing away, sadly. We always, love and miss Anthony. And in 2022, or, very beginning of 2022, Justin and I got new deals. Justin may have got his a little later because they were kind of a mess with some stuff. But I took less money, but not a ton less money to stay in Florida. And I was very happy about it, right? Was not complaining, was extremely happy. I had a really good relationship with Jomboy during these times. We saw eye to eye on a ton of things. Justin and I did the show. Justin edited quite a bit. But I also, paid somebody out of pocket to get the shows on YouTube early on. While again, still being a full-time employee, and I was, ghetto editing my videos, staying up all night. Like, again, I viewed this as my baby, and I truly think it is. The 2021 season, I would stay up until 4 and 5 a.m. on Monday nights doing the O-line report because I didn't get the film until midnight. And then just to get the film, I'd have to go to the NFL Euro Game Pass because they ruined the regular one. And so it would be released at midnight or whatever. I would have to screen record the entire film file and then do the O line report. So it would be up till 4 to 6 a.m. in the morning doing the O line report because I didn't get the film until then. And then I would wake up at 7 a.m., work on the film review, get the film review done, and do the mailbag pod later that day, in which I would go through and select all the questions. Right, I did every single free agent and draft breakdown, pre and post. Um, to try and grow that channel. I did reaction videos and news, after news and games. You know, I ran all the social media accounts from start to finish, except for a 2 month period where they would post our tweets onto the Instagram. I would send them the tweets that I had done. They would post them on Instagram, and then they complained that it was too much. And I just like, you know what, screw it, give it back to me. That's fine. As long as I know it's getting done, because it wasn't getting done. Um, I did mock drafts. Obviously those have a lot of editing help with whether it was Julian or Jeff. But I also, I paid out of pocket for Danny King to run the game day socials accounts. I booked every guest. I did episodes on my own. But I never complained about the dynamic of it because I was happy. I love talking Giants, but I viewed it as my own, right? This is not, an ESPN show or a TV show where you go on it and if you leave, they replace you and it stays the same most likely. You know, what I'm not okay with in all this is it's not the offers. It's not the offer they bother me, but that's not the reason why I'm mad. It feels like they're taking my baby from me, right? Like I don't care if they gave me those offers, fired me or called me mean names. Like the whole world knows who Talking Giants should belong to. It was mine before I joined JonBoy. It was mine when I did it for free while working full time. It was mine when it was built up into something good. But again, I will let the people decide on what should happen to it. And it is again, they didn't. It's not like they gave me this big offer and I turned it down. They're like, well, you're gonna turn that down. Like, no, they kind of they forced me to do this, and also, hey, you don't get to take your baby with you. And again, I wanted to wish Justin and Jomboy Media well on this episode, and just talk all about the future of Talking Giants, or what even if they wanted me to change the name, but just keep the properties. But I feel like I've been spit on out the door. And listen, I will be fine. I trust you guys. I will be fine. Jomboy Media will be fine as well too, right? They're a baseball company and a warehouse company. They're used to people hating on them, right? So, and whatever. But like this doesn't change anything for them really at the end of the day. They have every right to not be interested in what I'm selling. The person who comes out of this all the worse, I think, actually is Justin, because now he's got the security that he desired, but then what? Like, what happens in the future with him? And again, I genuinely wanted to keep Justin and do this for a long time, but it did not work out. But the reason why I think things didn't work out with Jomboy Media is, first, nothing lasts forever. But they will say, if they say anything, right? Like, if I were them, I'd probably just be quiet and let it go. But whatever. It's because I didn't move to New York and the lack of success with the NFL coverage. And guess what? They're right. That is the reason why I'm not working with JonBoy Media anymore. The issue is we disagree on the why for both things. They didn't want me in New York to grow Talking Giants or NFL coverage, but it would have helped in theory, right? I can do more events, we can do more streaming stuff, etc. Like there's ways it could have helped. The issue is that they want me there to be a part of their office culture and their warehouse games where they play wiffle ball and cricket or whatever. And it would have made me being up there would have made football coverage worse. They would have had me stuck in the warehouse every Thursday playing blitzball. It was literally and I'm not just guessing that. It was literally in the contract that they offered me to move up there. And they've also done it to Justin too. Like, it would have been a wild detriment to Talking Giants and the NFL coverage for me to be up there because of those reasons, because it wasn't actually there to be there to grow those things. It would have been there to keep them happy. Justin was, like not really adding a lot to the preview pods this year. And we do all our off-season, pods on Thursday, but they would have him in the warehouse, and I would carry the load on those, and the Football Today shows. And I'm not mad at Justin for that. Like that has nothing. That's not his fault. Like how are we going to do it? But how are we going to do an NFL show while we're eliminating a day of the week? Like how and adding 2 to 3 hours of commute on an around the clock job. Like it just would have hurt Talking Giants and football coverage. And the proof is what I saw them do to Justin. And again, this is not taking into account the fact that I've been making less money due to the state income taxes, then having higher cost of living, uprooting my entire life a month after getting married, being removed from my family's lives in critical years where my siblings are having kids. I plan to maybe have kids in the next couple of years. Like that's crazy to think I would jump at that. And the NFL coverage didn't work because one, uh, and I'm not saying it would have worked otherwise, but one, it was my distant second priority. I don't know what priority it was for Justin, but I actually think Justin did kind of make it a priority. And it was like Chris Rose's eighth priority. Like it wasn't even his first football priority, right? He did work for the NFL, network, and it's not his fault. Like, why would he prioritize that? Like, he'd be crazy to. But they just refused to hire anyone to make it their first priority. And once we accepted that, though, that's when I was like, all right, bring Justin on football today. Let's try and do this. And me and Justin went in. Like, we did team profiles and projections on every team except for the last one, because whatever. But and it honestly ruined like June and July for us. It sucked. Or July and August. Like, it sucked doing all those. We were doing long episodes, recapping the games, doing long previews, doing a midweek show. And I actually thought it was somewhat growing, and we were putting together a good show, and working our asses off, right? Like on so let you go through a schedule of this season early on because it changed when the change is what messed it up. So the Giants play at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So we got to do all our recap and stuff like that. Justin sometimes would have to be traveling back from the game. He did the tailgates in the morning. So we would do all the Talking Giants coverage, and then we'd try and watch Sunday Night Football while taking notes. And as soon as Sunday Night Football would end, I would watch two condensed games until about 1 o'clock or so in the morning, taking notes. Then would wake up at 7 in the morning and just watch games like all the way through 11. Like, because we wanted to have a good show, right? If we can't have all this supplemental content or someone who's really growing the channel with it being their number one priority, we at least wanted to watch the games and not just be going off of stats and stuff. And we were busting our ass. The preview, I thought it was actually a good product. Did I think it was going to grow a ton right away? No, because there wasn't really much that was being done outside of that to promote it. But I think it was growing and it was doing a good show. And then they nuked it. In October, they were saying the episodes are too long. It's not growing fast enough, blah, blah, blah. Even though it was growing compared to what it was before. And they said it is mandatory that these episodes are less than 30 minutes. Like, not just, hey, let's keep it around 30 minutes. Like, if this episode is at 32 minutes, the editor is instructed to cut out 2 minutes and 1 second to make it less than 30 minutes. And the views plummeted and became a shitty show. And at that point, I just knew that football coverage was never going to work with advice like that. And they kept on using the line whenever we talk about bringing somebody on to do football stuff of, oh, well, Jake would say, me and JonBoy started talking baseball while doing Talking Yanks. And that's true. But the reality is that JonBoy did the breakdowns. And that's what got that rolling. And hell, if I were able to find something that was anywhere near as successful as that, why the hell would I want to do it for you guys? Like, I could just make all the money on my own doing it that way. Like, are you providing, someone with us who spends their entire weekend putting together a script to do, the Football Today show? I don't know. And they also, excuse me, let me get a drink of water. They also in that same meeting tried to take our Patreon away, and we refused. We had it from the beginning, and they knew about it. In fact, I asked JonBoy for advice on how to do it because they did it with Talking Yanks. But they started their Substack and like, well, we can't let all the other creators do Patreons. It's been a gray area, blah blah blah. And before they even said much, they just said like, I'm not letting you take this. They had a meeting with us that had me and Justin not feeling so great earlier in the year. And it was like, this is our security, right? If you guys let us go tomorrow, this is our security, the Patreon, and we're not letting it go. And I understand the fact that, they can't just let all their creators have Patreons and stuff. But what they do is let the creators keep the ad money from their YouTube. And they weren't offering that in all of this. So regardless, I would have quit before giving up the Patreon. But the last part I really want to explain on this is it's not just, hey, they offer me $3,000 more to go to New York. The 50% of my salary offer and losing all my benefits part of it is still truly insane. And again, just fire me. Like seriously, just firing me would have been less disrespectful than that. But here's the thing: is I don't think they viewed it as disrespectful because they asked me to reconsider taking that deal 5 days after I told them I'm leaving. Um, First of all, no self-respecting person would ever take half of what they're making to do essentially the same amount of work. But their pitch to me was just faulty. Like they said we feel like it's a nice thing. Not we, not they Jake did. Because it allows me to do outside ventures like raising the Patreon price and doing Bleacher Report streams. And if you're not familiar, I have done 30-minute streams for Bleacher Report on their app, and they pay fairly well for that. Then the CEO of JonBoy Media went and told him to stop using me, and I'm not allowed to do it anymore. And I, called Jake and argued with him about it. Um, and basically was like, one, they're literally paying Bleacher Report to promote Talking Giants for us. Like it wasn't taking anything away from Talking Giants. Still did all the podcasts, ran all the social medias, did all the film stuff. And then I also did, 30-minute streams here and there on the #2 sports app in the world where I was being able to promote all those things that we were doing. But they wanted to shut it down, not because it was helping the competition, but because they were mad that they paid me for it instead of them. And despite the fact that Bleacher Report did pay them well for the playoff live streams, the draft streams a couple years ago, which I brought to them, right? Because they, Bleacher Report offered me to do some stuff for the draft and the playoffs, and I was like, hey, go to JonBoy Media. Like I obviously I have to do stuff for them, but maybe you can get a deal done with them, and they did. And I, you know, I literally and I turned down other like things, like by Bleacher Report because I need to do Talking Giants work. I remember free agency last year when Saquon signed with the Eagles. Like, can you jump on a stream? I'm like, I can't. I gotta do Talking Giants stuff. They just signed John Runyon. Um, but the argument is faulty anyways because if Bleacher Report booked me for every week of the year, which was not the case at all, like I think the most was like 20 streams in a year. It wouldn't come even close to making the difference in half of my salary. And again, that wasn't going to happen anyways. And the idea that I can just sign up for Bleacher Report to pay me, like, that's not something, that's not something that's real. And Bleacher Report, like, they've totally changed their business plan. Not Bleacher, they're with the streams, they've changed their plan on that. And I wasn't a part of it because I was a full-time employee of JonBoy Media. They were changing some things about it where, I probably, again, regardless, Bleacher Report is those people are amazing, but I wasn't their employee and they don't owe me anything. But again, they changed their plan and I wasn't a part of that, which is totally fine. And they also said I can do the Patreon and raise the price. So first of all, I already had the Patreon, so that's not any added money to me because I already had it. But why on God's green earth would that be the thing to do? Why would I go to the Patreon and listeners? I'm like, hey, listeners, JonBoy Media is paying me half my salary. But no worries, guys. No worries. You can make up the difference. Right? We're going to raise the price. So you guys get to make up the difference. And by the way, I still would be splitting the Patreon with Justin in this scenario. Like, that's crazy. That's insane to think that that's a realistic thing. So their big pitch on why it was nice to offer me half my salary is I can earn other places, which would have been a grand total of $0 from Bleacher Report, and I get to keep the Patreon that I already had. And then, Jake had the audacity to tell me 5 days after I told him I'm quitting that he thinks it's a nice thing for them to do. So again, there's other things I'm bothered by, but that's just get real. Get real. Just say you don't want me there. That's fine. But again, regardless, I don't mind JonBoy Media saying we don't want you because you don't want to be in New York or football didn't grow the way we envision. I don't mind that they told me I need to be doing enough, all this type of stuff that wasn't realistic. I don't mind that they wanted to take the Patreon away, even though I wouldn't give it to them. What bothers me is throughout all that they're taking away the podcast feed, the YouTube, and the social media feeds that I ran those social media accounts. Even take the podcast, but taking away my entire reach on Instagram and Facebook is such garbage to me, especially when you're not going to do anything with them outside of posts, whatever. But you're just not going to be the same. And people aren't going to be happy about it. So again, maybe they turn those into great accounts and do different things with them, but that sucks. That truly, truly sucks. So again, as far as the company goes, I'm very glad to be gone, regardless of keeping all the things I built or building it from scratch like I'm doing that right now. And I'm excited about the future. I really am. Am I mad at Justin? Yes. I have no desire to ever speak to Jake or the CEO ever again. John Boy, I'm actually not mad at him personally. He's tried to take himself out of these things and he's let other people handle them. He's really not a part of them. At least I don't think he is. And here's the thing: he's grown an awesome thing with his breakdowns, talking Yanks, and whatever else he does, which is a lot. And he focuses on the warehouse games. It's fine. Like that's awesome. And it does bother me a little bit that I've been with him for 6 years and I still haven't gotten a call or text, in 12 days after I told him anything. Um, but I have no ill will on him not prioritizing football, me, anything. I just don't. Because honestly, if I was him, I wouldn't either, right? Like I don't have this desire to do baseball stuff. I want to do the stuff that interests me, and that's what I want to do with this company, Giants Nation show and whatever it becomes going forward. So I don't have that. And the other thing is, JonBoy, yeah, did JonBoy see my grind and hunger back in the day? Yes. But he gave me an opportunity that I will always be thankful for. Always, right? Gave me an offer to become a full-time, to do it with his brand, to become a full-time employee, and then gave me what I thought was a really nice raise a couple of years after. Like I will always be thankful for JonBoy. Again, I'm mad at Justin. There's leadership of that company I have no desire to ever speak to again, but JonBoy is not one of them. But again, Giants Nation, the Patreon is the key to this. Like this episode really is the key to this with it. Patreon.com/Giants Nation. I'm always going to announce the new Patreons like we did before, but I don't think I'll ever make a plea like this again to support. And that's why I wanted to tell the truth on all this episode, because I don't want you guys think I just I ditched Justin for a few more bucks, or I'm hardballing with John. Like no, I thought both offers sucked. And I wanted to keep but I was fine with that. I wanted to keep my show. They didn't give it to me. So Giants Nation show, it is. I'm excited about the future. I believe that it's going to go well. And I think you guys are going to take care of me. I think I will be taken care of, and I appreciate you guys, and I'm so excited. I'm excited to never talk about this again. By the way, I'm excited. We got the mid-round, prospect preview with Nick Filato coming out on Friday. Already recorded that. Draft month, so I'm excited we get to dive into just draft content and do everything that comes with it. So I don't know what the reaction is going to be to this. I really don't know, but I'm so excited about the future of Giants Nation show. I'm excited to reintroduce it, what it once was. I'm excited to have Grump involved, Danny King involved, and whoever else is involved, and you guys involved. So again, I make a final plea to patreon.com/Giants Nation to support this. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm excited for the future. There's gonna be a lot of content coming out on this channel. I'll see you. I do know when I'll see you. Probably Friday and some stuff in the middle. But appreciate you guys as always. And until then, let's go Big Blue.